country disappeared in less than a week. Almost nobody noticed. Not because it was destroyed by war. Not because it was conquered by a powerful empire. Not because its people vanished. It simply stopped existing. In 1975, the Kingdom of Sikkim reached the end of a story that had lasted for more than 3 centuries. One day it was a kingdom with a king, a flag, and its own identity. Days later, it was part of India. Today, most people around the world have never even heard of it. But for the people who lived there, this was not a forgotten event from a history book. It was the moment their country changed forever. High in the Himalayas, between India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Tibet, stood one of the smallest kingdoms on earth. Its name was Sikkim. For centuries it survived while powerful empires rose and collapsed around it. The kingdom was founded in 1642. That means it existed before the United States became a country, before Germany became a unified nation, before modern Italy even existed. Generations lived and died under the same royal dynasty. Kings ruled from mountain palaces. Monks prayed in ancient monasteries. Farmers worked the land. Families raised children. Life moved slowly, and for most people the kingdom seemed permanent. It had survived for so long that few imagined they would ever witness its end. A kingdom that survived for 333 years was about to reach its final days. 333 years of history. At the center of this story stood a man named Palden Thondup Namgyal. He was the Chogyal, the king of Sikkim. To outsiders, he was simply a monarch. To many people inside the kingdom, he represented continuity. As long as the Chogyal ruled, Sikkim remained Sikkim. The monarchy had become part of everyday life. Children grew up knowing there was a king. Families saw the royal dynasty as something that would always exist. But by the early 1970s, cracks were beginning to appear beneath the surface. Political tensions were growing. Different communities wanted different futures. Some believed the monarchy still had a place. Others believed the kingdom needed major change. The debates became louder. The disagreements became harder to ignore. Slowly, a question began spreading across the kingdom. What should Sikkim become? The end of Sikkim did not begin with gunshots. It began with questions. The future of the kingdom was uncertain. While politicians argued about the future, ordinary people continued living their lives. Shopkeepers opened their stores every morning. Children walked to school. Farmers worked in the mountains. Families gathered around dinner tables. Most people were not thinking about history. They were thinking about tomorrow. But history has a strange habit of arriving when nobody expects it. One moment life feels normal. The next moment, everything changes. By 1975, the future of Sikkim was no longer a distant political discussion. It had become an immediate reality. Rumors spread through towns and villages. People discussed politics in markets and homes. Nobody knew exactly what would happen next. But everyone understood that something important was coming. History was moving toward a moment that would change everything. Then came the referendum, a vote that would determine the future of the monarchy. For a kingdom that had existed since the 17th century, the stakes could not have been higher. People cast their votes and waited. The result was overwhelming. The monarchy would be abolished. The kingdom would come to an end. A decision had been made. For some people, it represented progress and change. For others, it felt like the closing of a chapter that had lasted longer than anyone could remember. Regardless of where they stood, everyone understood the significance of what had just happened. 3 centuries of history were about to be transformed. 3 centuries of history were decided by a single vote. 333 years, 1 vote. Imagine being the king at that moment. Imagine living inside a palace built for generations of rulers. Imagine believing that your dynasty would continue into the future. Then imagine discovering that your reign would be the last. The palace still stood. The crown still existed. The mountains still surrounded the kingdom. Yet everything had changed. Palden Thondup Namgyal was about to become the final king in Sikkim's history. A dynasty that had survived for centuries was reaching its end during his lifetime. One man watched a 333-year-old kingdom disappear before his eyes. Soon afterward, the monarchy was abolished. On the 16th of May, 1975, Sikkim officially became a state of India. The Kingdom of Sikkim ceased to exist. Just like that, a country that had survived for more than 3 centuries was gone. Think about how strange that is. A nation can exist for hundreds of years. Entire generations can grow up believing it will always be there. Then, within a single lifetime, it disappears. A child born in the 1940s could have spent their early years in an independent kingdom and reached adulthood in a completely different political reality. History can move much faster than people expect. The kingdom was gone. But this is where the story becomes truly fascinating. The mountains did not disappear. The rivers did not disappear. The towns did not disappear. The people did not disappear. Gangtok was still Gangtok. Families still lived in the same homes. Children still attended the same schools. The land looked exactly as it had before. Yet something fundamental had changed. The country itself was gone. That raises a question few people ever think about. What does it actually feel like when your country disappears? Not your house, not your town, not your family, your country. The thing you always assumed would be there. The mountains stayed the same. The people stayed the same. Only the country disappeared. An era had ended. Most history books focus on kings and governments. But the most fascinating part of this story is the ordinary people. For generations, they had lived inside the Kingdom of Sikkim. Their grandparents had known the kingdom. Their parents had known the kingdom. They had known the kingdom. Then suddenly, history moved in a different direction. Some people welcomed the change. Some opposed it. Others simply accepted it as reality. But nobody could deny one fact. An era had ended. The kingdom their ancestors had known for centuries would never return. A country can disappear from the map while remaining alive in memory. Today, many people around the world have never heard this story. They know about countries being created. They know about revolutions. They know about wars. But very few know about a country that quietly disappeared in 1975. That is what makes Sikkim unique. Most historical documentaries focus on the birth of nations. This story is about the end of one. It is about a kingdom that survived for 333 years and then quietly stepped into history. Most people can name a new country. Few can name one that disappeared. A country can disappear. Its story cannot. As time passed, the story of Sikkim slowly faded from global attention. New generations grew up. The world moved forward, yet traces of the kingdom remain. In photographs, in memories, in historical records, in stories passed down through families. Because countries are more than governments and borders. They are collections of memories shared by millions of people. Maps can change, governments can change, but memories often survive much longer. Today, Sikkim is known for its mountains, culture, monasteries, and natural beauty. Life continues. Families grow. Children go to school. Visitors travel through the Himalayas. The future keeps moving forward. Yet hidden beneath the modern landscape is the memory of a kingdom that lasted for more than 3 centuries. A kingdom that survived against incredible odds. A kingdom that eventually reached its final chapter. History remembers the birth of nations. It rarely remembers their deaths. The Kingdom of Sikkim lasted for 333 years. Its monarchy disappeared. Its place on the map disappeared. Yet its story remains one of the most fascinating and forgotten chapters of modern history. The country survived for centuries. Then, almost without the world noticing, it was gone. Subscribe to Pasterex for the hidden side of history, the secrets behind famous events, and the stories most people never hear.